Hello, everybody! BeMetalways here. Big review for me personally and for most of the heavy metal community. Iron Maiden Senjutsu in my weekly heavy metal album review released by Parlophone Records on September 3rd, 2021. Now, I seriously don't think I need to give a background on the band. What I must say, Iron Maiden needs no introduction, obviously. By many measures, it is the biggest metal band on the planet. To me personally, it's hugely important band. This was my first album ever, my first band to get into it, my first guitar riff that I learned, my first live concert, and so forth. So yes, as a fan for most of their career, I remember when Somewhere in Time was released as their new album in 1986, and I have followed every new release since then. I have also been to almost every tour, at least the new album tours since Fear of the Dark, and because of that, I can be very critical and have high expectations on their albums. I also must say that I love all phases of the band. The only two albums that I really don't like are Fear of the Dark and definitely Virtual 11 as the worst album ever. So, that to say that I also appreciate a lot the 2000s albums and their more progressive, longer songs since the return of Bruce and Adrian. So, without further ado, let's go and let's get into the Senjutsu. This is obviously their 7th studio album, and again a double CD, now with 10 songs and clocking in at 82 minutes. The order of the 10 tracks and the CD split was very well thought. Now, let me say first that the first 3 songs and the first part of Lost in a Lost World, track number 4, are great and very different from previous albums. The title track and first track is surprising and distinct from anything the band has ever done. Nico's drumming, inspired by Taiko, drummers of Japan, is absolutely mesmerizing. The guitar work and song structure, it's very distinctive and really stands out. Then the first single, The Writing on the Wall, is also different from other tracks, especially due to its folk influence. Great guitar work from Adrian on this track. The second single, Stratego, is short but inventive, diverse, and powerful. A full review on the description below. Now, this track is the first moment on the album that I get bothered by. And this is because of the unnecessary loud keyboards. This song would be much better without those keyboards, or at least much lower in the mix. On the other hand, Lost in a Lost World is a perfect use of keyboards, and they created this base for the acoustic strumming guitars in this unique, moody intro. So I'm not against keyboards by definition, I must say that. Then back to Lost in a Lost World, all the vocal layers and effects are a new experiment for the band, and it worked nicely. After 2 minutes, though, we transition to a traditional Harris galloping riffs and a trademark hooks and guitar leads from Maiden. It sounds a lot like Brave New World, the song, and this is the first hint of something that is bothering some fans: the recycling of ideas of riffs and chord progressions. I still think it's a decent track, and that feeling of repetition and recycling can be exacerbated by the Time Machine track, which is a great song, by the way, but I must say that it does resemble a combination of the Talisman quite a lot with a hint of the Book of Souls track. I also want to talk about The Darkest Tower because this is already one of my all-time Maiden favorite slow tempo songs. This Smith Dickinson tale about Churchill, it's very similar to something they would release in Bruce's solo albums, but From Maiden, I think this sounding very unique. And by the way, what a great guitar solos in this song. And I must say that overall, Senjutsu is probably Maiden's album with the highest number of guitar solos ever, and they are very interesting and somewhat different from their solos in previous albums. I read this comment on a video on YouTube where Steve asked how many solos shall we have in this album, and Adrian, Yannick, and Dave said yes. I love that joke. Anyway, Days of Future Past, the shortest and simplest song on the album, brings us back to the very early days, and I think it's a cool thing that they always add a couple of songs that are short and direct like the early albums. Then, of course, we have CD2, featuring the three epic songs. Together, those three songs add up to not less than 35 minutes of music composed by Harris by himself. Those tracks are what I think is causing some divisive opinion among fans. I see people loving them and others hating them. The other thing is that they are darker tunes, and in that sense, they take me back to Blaze Bailey era. Death of the Celts, especially, is almost like a sequel to The Clansman, and The Parchment resembles Sign of the Cross quite a lot, in my opinion. Hell on Earth, on the other hand, is one of my favorites on the album, closing it with this sad but hopeful feeling. I just love the melodies on this one. The pace and how huge the sort of chorus sounds, I think it's a magnificent album closer. I can't understand how a Maiden fan won't love this one. Once you get into the song, when you hear the guitar melodies at the beginning of it, foreshadowing the goose-bumping verses that will come later, I mean, that's so powerful. I do love this song. And by the way, there are not a lot of repetitions on this song like some people are complaining. And that's the beauty. It's a long journey with huge payoffs when you get into those amazing vocal melodies, especially verses 5 and 6 that starts with I wish I could go back. And then we have also these ending bridges that have love in anger, life in danger, lost in anger, life in danger. I mean, that's so beautiful, goose-bumping, a masterpiece. I really don't understand how people don't love this track. Anyways, now, not everything's perfect, so I can be picky here, as I mentioned, especially for a band that I love so much. As I noticed in Stratego and Writing on the Wall, I still think that the vocals are often a bit low on the mix. With that said, except for the YouTube version of those songs, it's not a big deal for me. I mean, I do notice sometimes that it's low, but it's okay. I mean, I can go through it and not be too bothered by it. But the overuse of keyboards, it is a problem. Sometimes it is so loud on the mix that irritates me, like in Stratego, as I said. I have no idea why Steve felt the need to stuff keyboards everywhere in this album, especially when you already have three guitar players. So overall, because of that, I don't like the production, and not coincidentally, I think the Smith Dickinson songs are the ones that sound best, probably because they put a stop in all this keyboard stuff. Anyways, many people are complaining about the song lengths and there's a recycling of ideas. That doesn't really bother me personally. I have actually a magic solution. Wait for it. If you don't like the long songs, you can not listen to them, especially because here they are in the second CD, so you can only listen to the first CD and you will be fine. But seriously, since they come back with Brave New World, I haven't been bothered by the longer songs. Actually, they are usually my favorites. On the same token, I like all of them here in Senjutsu. but it's undeniable that they are stretched at times. The album is just 2 minutes shy of being a single CD, and I would hate to think they pushed for a double CD or a triple vinyl for commercial reasons, as by the way, the prices of this release have been honestly outrageous. I say that because by cutting a little bit here and there, they would be able to do one CD. For example, the very long fade out of Hell on Earth could be at least 30 minutes, 30 seconds shorter, and the wave samples on Darkest Hours would already be enough to bring us to one CD. Otherwise, on top of that, the Parchment is the clearest example of a song overextended with a lot of repetition. Bruce himself has subtly criticized this one on an interview. With that said, and I must add this, at the minutes 80:34 in the song, when Bruce bursts this amazing melody, "We are to believe," like "We are to believe," and then followed by the two great verses and closing with this fantastic scream, "Meet Me There," which it might be one of the longest breath holding that he has done maybe since Flight of Icarus. I mean, that's amazing stuff. So even though the song is long and there are some repetitions, I think there are some moments here that are just amazing. So it's so great that, and I think here they could have saved 3 minutes if they would finish right after this amazing scream from Bruce. Now, let me wrap up here. This album is darker and more melancholic than previous records, probably due to most of compositions being by Harris or in partnership with Harris, 7 of the 10 songs. This leads to a lot of similarities and callback to the Blaze Bayley albums. When it comes to music writing, this is one of the best and most consistent albums since Seventh Son, and to me is at par with my post-80s favorite albums, A Matter of Life and Death and Brave New World. But production-wise, it is underwhelming and at points downright irritating. So the album loses a bit of points to me because of that. And look, divisive big bands such as Maiden will always cause people to complain. It's the classic reaction that I read in posts in social media and becomes even comical. Half of the people complain that it sounds the same, and the other half complain that it doesn't sound like Power Slave or something else from the 80s. So to me, I don't care. Either way, if I enjoy the music, I'm happy, I like it, and period. To me, this is a very good album, 86 out of 100, because of the production. Otherwise, I probably would give a 90, but it is what it is. There's a chance that I will increase with time, but for now, I go with 86 out of 100. Thanks for being here, from listening, and be meta always.